everybody, and welcome to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and Facebook Live. I'm your host, Scott Credici. Glad you could join us. Our Mike Martin Show brought to you each week by United Healthcare. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at UHC.com. Well, joining us on the show, as they do each and every week, first from the class of 71, my color analyst for Brown basketball here on WPRV, Russ Tyler. Russ, how you doing?
Scott, great. Looking forward to another great show.
Yep, I am as well. And let's say hello to the head coach of the Bears from the class of 04. Mike Martin is with us. Mike, how are you tonight?
Good evening, guys. I'm great. 68 down to 16. Been a fun tournament so far. Looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, Coach, and congratulations to you. I know we talked last week about Coach Gallagher and the Hartford Hawks, one of your close friends in the business. And another close friend of yours is part of the Sweet 16, Porter Moser and Loyola of Chicago, another Cinderella story, so to speak. But, boy, he's really built the program out there, hasn't he?
He has. And, I think, an amazing performance against Illinois the other day. But honestly, not that surprising. If you've watched Loyola all year long and all the computer metrics would back it up, they're a top 10 team, and they have been. For the consistent, last 2 months of the year. And, they're experienced, they're talented, they're extremely tough and competitive, and obviously they're really well coached. So, that was a lot of fun to see him take down Georgia Tech, and then obviously the big one on Sunday against Illinois.
Mike, how did your relationship start with Porter? I know of your relationship with Coach Gallagher. How did you get to meet Porter Moser? And I know you two have become close friends.
Yeah, so John Gallagher, I say to people, anyone who asks, he's the ultimate connector. Probably half of my relationships in the profession, have come through introductions through John. And, we have this group of coaches that spend a ton of time, usually together at the Final Four every year. And I met Porter probably back in 2012 or 2013 at the Final Four through John, and the relationship has just really grown and taken off from there. We recruit Chicago pretty heavily here at Brown, and obviously TJ has built great contacts out there, and through recruiting in the Midwest, through Final Fours, and just through watching college basketball, our relationship has really grown, and I'm grateful. He's been a great mentor and friend.
Yeah, and Mike, when does the summer academic session start at Brown, and who will be on campus, and what will you be able to do in terms of practice, if you know?
Yeah, no, great question, Russ. I believe it's the middle of May, like May 12th. We have commencement May 1st and 2nd, and then I think there's a 10-day break, and then the summer term will start then. We'll have all 5 of our freshmen enrolled in person in the summer term. We'll have 3 of our 4 sophomores, Perry Cowan, Josh Watts, and Karsten Koelnick. The Ivy League just approved a waiver last week that is going to allow us to work with them on the court, which would be fantastic for 6 hours a week. 6 hours a week combined between on-court work and in the weight room with Coach Mike Pimentel. So I think it can be a great summer as we continue to try to prepare for next season. For our other, veteran players like Jalen and David and Noah and Tyler Brown, we're still waiting on clearance from the university. Will they be allowed in the vicinity of Providence? And if so, can they do voluntary work in the gym? Obviously, we can't work with them because they won't be enrolled in summer term, but can they go in and work out on their own? Those are some of the details we're still trying to sort through.
And Coach, I know this has been obviously a very unique time with the pandemic. How have your freshmen acclimated to the program?
They're doing great, Scott. They really, they're quick learners. They are really good communicators, and they are they're hard workers. So I think those are 3 good qualities to start. Like everyone, they have things to learn. We have our way of doing things, and we're always trying to improve what we do and how we teach, but it's just different from what they're used to. And the good thing is they have Jalen and they have David, who've been in the program for 2 full years, and now this spring term to teach them, as well as Perry and Karsten and Josh Watts, who, have only been with us for one full year, but, still can kind of lean on their freshman year transition to help guide our new players. So, Dan Friday is the one sophomore who he's on a leave of absence, which we've discussed, and that will allow him to have 3 full years of eligibility here at Brown, when he comes back in the fall. But, so they're doing well. I think they'll make an impact on the program, and I'm really grateful for the time we have with them now and then this summer, so that when we get the new freshmen in next fall, it won't be brand new to 11 guys, but only 5 or 6.
Yeah, and Mike, I was just going to ask you about that, because obviously you're charged with the task of assimilating really 2 years of recruits into Division I basketball for the season opener next fall. So is that especially challenging? What's different?
Yeah, no, it is, Russ. And it's something I've thought about. I've had a lot of time this winter to think, right? And, you think about, all right, well, Brandon's gone, Zach's gone, Josh is gone, Matt, T, we lose all these great players. Are we going to, and we have 11 new guys coming in. Our seniors who have only played 2 full years. So this time that we've had has been really valuable. We've been able to film everything. We teach a lot through our film. Now, obviously, there's no substitute for a real game experience, and that's what we're missing out on. And it's going to be 20 months between real Division I basketball games for all of our guys. So that's going to be, and it's going to be the first for, first Division I game for 11 guys. So it's definitely a concern, but I'm confident that we'll grow. We may not be the team in November that will end up being in January, February. But I'm confident from the time, with all the time we have between now and when we play our first Ivy League game in January, that we can prepare and get this team ready to compete.
Mike, getting back to the NCAA tournament, I talked to you a week or two ago off the air about, I question whether or not we'd have as many upsets this year with all the games being played in Indianapolis and very limited crowds. I felt that the top seeds, maybe they wouldn't feel as much pressure if they were down to a low seed. I couldn't have been more wrong. It's been upsets galore. It's been your typical NCAA tournament. I think the NCAA has done a great job of pulling this thing off.
It's been awesome to watch. I say it every year. There is nothing like it, and obviously I'll watch any basketball that's being played at any level, but there's nothing like this tournament for our sport. And I'm grateful that the tournament's going on. Obviously the Ivy League's watching from the sidelines, and that's difficult. But I'm excited for the rest of the country that they're able to participate. I'm excited for, all the fans throughout the world who get to watch it, because last March was different and obviously way more serious than missing an NCAA basketball tournament with, the pandemic. But, March is, everyone, you start when the calendar turns to March, everyone thinks of this tournament. And I'm really happy that we're able to experience it this year.
Yeah, and Mike, as this regular season wore on, Scott lost his enthusiasm a little bit for the Orange up in Syracuse, New York. But I want you to know, Mike, and maybe you'll be relieved to know that he's a full-fledged Orange fan again, as they now are in the Sweet 16.
Well, I don't want to brag because I didn't have them winning 2 games, but I did. I told Scott multiple times last week, don't worry, they'll get by San Diego State. If we went out to San Diego to beat them, then the Orange can definitely beat them on a neutral court. So, I like that matchup. And I'll tell you, when they win the first game of the weekend, they usually win the second because it's such a quick turnaround for that zone. And, I talked to Coach Moser at Loyola yesterday, and obviously they got a lot to do to beat Oregon State. But that's going to be a quick turn if they got to prepare for the Orange zone in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, you hear the broadcasters say, as much as you try to prepare for it, you can't really assimilate it in practice unless you have the length that a team like Syracuse does, because Boeheim recruits to that zone. But what I've noticed in recent years, it seems like, if teams are familiar with it, maybe they become more comfortable trying to attack it. And in the tournament, their opponents aren't familiar with it. So maybe that's why it's a little bit more successful for Coach Boeheim this time of year.
I think that's fair. And I just think he's a master at adjusting the zone throughout the game too. He sees how you're trying to attack it, and he makes the necessary adjustments. They can play it different ways. And like you said, their length, and like there's the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, with Syracuse defense, it's just one thing that they focus in on, and they are a master of it, right? That 2-3 zone. And contrary to what you may think, Scott, we won't be playing the 2-3 next year here at Brown. I know you've been trying for years to get us to do it.
You are a man. You're a man-to-man coach at your core. I know that. Believe me. Well, Coach, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll be joined by Assistant Coach Cooper Handelsman and your Director of Basketball Operations, Sam Hirschberger. We'll take a break. Back with more of the Mike Martin Show right after this.
Elite Physical Therapy was founded on relationships and wanting to do the very best and elite by others. Having our partnerships with institutions like the University of Rhode Island, Providence College, and Brown University have made us proud to continue to serve the communities like they do.
I can say that I am incredibly proud of our team and our community.
Treating them, we know these people on a personal level.
Here at Elite, we really focus on the person and what's important to the person. We love Rhode Island. We're living here. We're raising our families here.
You put care into everything you do. United Healthcare does too. Like connecting you to care whenever you need it. Because like you, United Healthcare knows what care can do.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we're not going to leave anything on our plates because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
Welcome back to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and Facebook Live. This portion of the program is brought to you by the Brown University Sports Foundation. Through your donations and the work of our volunteers, the Brown Sports Foundation is committed to providing funding and support to Brown student athletes to enhance the student-athlete experience. Thank you for your generosity and service to Brown Athletics. Well, this week it gives us great pleasure to welcome on to Coach's Show two of his assistants, Assistant Coach Cooper Handelsman and Director of Basketball Operations, Sam Hirschberger. Guys, how are you today?
Doing well, thanks.
Doing great, Scott. Thanks for having us on.
Well, it's great to have both of you with us. Both of you are, now in your third year with the program. Coop, we'll start with you. I know you were a graduate of Kenyon College, and you were a terrific assist man out there from what I understand. But you got into coaching almost right away, right at Lehigh in the hoop group before coming to Brown. To kind of take us through your career and how you wound up here a few years ago.
Yeah, so like you said, played at Kenyon College, graduated in 2015, spent one season as a video coordinator at Lehigh after that. Like you said, kind of right into it. It was a great experience. We were, not that it's elites at me, but a couple points away from winning the Patriot League championship that year. We had a couple looks at the end, but first season being on a college staff was great. And then after that, went to the hoop group for about 3 years. And that was just a really good experience to, learn connections about the grassroots and AAU world, running camps, clinics, and tournaments, kind of all up and down the East Coast and a little bit into the Midwest. So, that got a chance to even see some of the guys we have now, like, Felix, Josh Watts, Carson, those type of guys I had seen before. So, just understanding those guys and kind of the landscape and things like that. And then when the job opened here, my boss, Rob Kennedy, had a relationship with Coach Martin. So I was able to kind of get on board here. And like you said, been here going into year 3 after this. So it's been great.
And Sam, so the world shuts down a little more than a year ago, and you're not back to work because you've been working hard for the last year. But how is it to be in your new offices at Brown and back to work on campus?
Oh, it's incredible, Russ. We did so much over Zoom, like everyone during the pandemic, and I felt like we stayed so connected. But there are so many moments between the moments, when you're in the office every day, and our whole staff's been on the court, for the last 5 or 6 weeks now, and it's just been incredible. Our staff is so close, it's been great to have more time in those relationships here since we've been back.
Sam, an interesting tidbit about you that some might not know. You were, if I'm not mistaken, a walk-on at Elon, and then as a senior voted captain. To me, that's about as impressive as it gets. Talk to us about your experience at Elon and what that was like, because in college basketball, I don't know if too many young men that have walked onto a program have been voted captain, no matter what the sport.
Yeah, Scott. I had a heck of an experience there. I remember so vividly as a freshman going to pick up and standing in the corner and kind of just feeling very out of place. Like, am I going to get a chance to get in this pickup game or what? And the contrast between that and what happened my senior year, really cool. Scott, I don't know that it was much more than just working hard, being a good teammate. It's amazing how that simple stuff can earn some respect. And yeah, I was worst player on our team, and I fouled a lot and no left hand, couldn't shoot, but I took pride in being a good teammate and working hard.
And Cooper, obviously the 2019-2020 version of the Bears finishes on a roll, arguably playing their best basketball of the season with the two wins at Harvard and Dartmouth, on the way to the postseason, probably the CBI, and then that shuts down. You miss an entire year this year, so you're back for your team next year. Can you give us just a prognosis on what that team will be? Because now you're bringing in 2 years of recruits to join the returning guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see some of these new guys, whether they've, haven't been on campus like you said with the freshmen, or guys who have been away for a while, and seeing how the new pieces fit. Obviously with seniors like Zach and Brandon and Josh, and then Matt DeWolf, Jake, this coming year, there's a lot of new guys playing new parts, but guys like David Mitchell, Dan Friday, those type of guys, they have the experience, just going to be stepping into those new roles. And I think they're going to be great. And then, like you said, we have a lot of new pieces who we're excited about, and I think they'll be able to help us win a lot of games. I think we'll be good next year as well. Maybe I'm biased, but I think we'll be really good.
Sam, as you know, this is a real fun time for college basketball junkies like the five of us with the NCAA tournament. Some of us more than others. Let's go Orange. But you spent 2 years before coming to Brown at the University of Florida as a grad assistant under Coach White. And, of course, they unfortunately were just eliminated from the tournament. But in your 2 years there, I believe you qualified for the tournament both years. What was that experience like for you at Florida?
Oh, it's incredible. Incredible. There's so much pageantry that goes along with the tournament. And my first year, we were gonna make the tournament. We were pretty confident. Ended up making it as a 6 seed. My second season, we were on the bubble heading into the SEC tournament, and really needed to perform well, and ended up beating LSU at the buzzer to get another quad 1 win. And then so when selection show comes around, we're all huddled up kind of in a banquet room, and they've announced 3 of the 4 regions. So, it's kind of down to the wire, and they get through all the teams, and the only slots that are left are the 7, 10, 2, and 15. We knew we weren't the 2 and the 15. They announced the 7. And so it all comes down to this. And sure enough, they, pops up, and the 10 Florida Gators, and the whole room just erupts. It was like a buzzer beater. So that's something I'll always remember. And very cool experiences.
And Mike, we're looking forward to that next year with the Brown Bears for that NCAA tournament show that Sam just described. That'll be a lot of fun.
I heard you're hosting it, Russ.
I'll do it.
We're looking forward to we're looking forward to celebrating a lot of hard work between now and then. That would be an amazing moment, as Sam discussed. I've obviously been a part of a staff at Penn where we knew we were getting in, but I think we were still the 4th region to be announced, and we knew we had the automatic bid. But then you start to wonder, like, are we going to see our name here? But then when you finally do, there's nothing like it. And For all the people who continue to help work and support our program, that's the goal. That's where we want to be. We want to be Ivy League champions, and we want to be playing in this tournament because there's nothing like it.
Mike, I've said this many times. I think you have a terrific eye for talent. And I'm not just talking about the players that you recruit into your program, but I think your staff as well. And these two guys are a perfect example of that. And I look at the guys they replaced. In Cooper's case, it was Antone, who's still part of your staff. And in Sam's place, it was Brendan, who he replaced. But how do you go about identifying talent? Do you rely on your connections within the business? Is it more, that in-person interview that sells you on someone? How do you identify the coaching talent that you bring into your program?
It's a great question, Scott. First of all, we're fortunate. We've got an unbelievable university that we represent, and a lot of people, would love this opportunity and love the experience. So, I think just like in recruiting, we've got to do a great job in our evaluations. We want to involve a number of people to help us meet with candidates and, have, background information type phone calls with people they've worked with and for prior to coming here. So with both these guys, we spent a lot of time really trying to get to know them. Again, we're fortunate to have great candidates interested in joining our staff because of the type of school we represent and the league that in which we play. But it's the people in your program. There's no one more important, right, than the people. There's nothing more important than the people. Obviously, the student athletes first and foremost, and your staff. I mean, you have to have everybody not only working in the same direction, but that are competent and talented enough to lead Brown basketball where we want it to be.
And Cooper, of course, I filled out a NCAA bracket as you would expect, and as Scott would expect, and Mike and Sam. I haven't made a mistake yet. I've got every single game picked perfectly. How's your bracket doing, Cooper?
We talking about the one I fill out live like you, or the one I do before the
I
tournament?
like it, Scott, huh? He comes right back.
I'll say I had Gonzaga and Baylor in the championship, so that's still alive. So
Yep.
We're doing good there, but don't ask me too much about the rest of the bracket. It gets a little shaky after that, but I at least have faith Gonzaga's still going to win it. So I'll keep riding that and say at least hopefully pick the winner when it's all done.
Yeah, it's been wild with all the upsets, huh?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Been fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Coop, on that one. I think Gonzaga and Baylor were consistently the two best teams this year, so I picked them in my championship game as well. But, teams like Michigan, I think certainly can state their case. Sam, let's talk a little bit about your role because not a lot of people understand all of the things that you do in terms of basketball operations, travel coordination, meals, buses, practice times, all that type of stuff. Just tell people a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, Scott. Well, you know better than anyone as a former director of football operations. There's a lot that goes into running a college basketball program. People see the games on TV and may not know, what all goes on behind the scenes. And there are so many different buckets in running the program. Recruiting is a huge operation, and there's a lot of, in the Ivy League grades, their academic background is really important. So there's a lot of tracking down of that information. And if we stay on recruiting, there are official visits where recruits will come to campus and get a feel for the campus facilities, staff, and a lot of legwork goes into, get their travel and then their lodging once they're here. And we could go on and on down the line, but it's a role that it's just a lot of behind the scenes. And I remember as a player, you just kind of show up to the bus and go to the game, right? And so it's been neat to kind of see all the nooks and crannies that really go into this.
And is the end game for you to become a head coach someday?
Scott, whether it's a head coach, an assistant coach, I just would like to coach one day. I love the teaching process. I love seeing someone go about fulfilling their potential, and whatever role that's in. There's a lot of external factors that can determine that. So we'll see what happens.
And Cooper, you grew up in Pittsburgh, or in the Pittsburgh area, as I understand it. How do you go from Pittsburgh, or why do you go from Pittsburgh to Kenyon?
Yeah, so obviously I knew I wanted to play, so finding schools that were recruiting me, Kenyon was active in the recruiting process. Sorry about that, from the beginning. So that was a big thing. And then I wanted to be somewhat close to home. It's in Ohio, so it's across state lines, but it was only about 2 hours and 45 minutes to get from campus. So it was good to be able to come home for holidays or breaks, and my parents were able to come out and see games. So, those were big things. And then, academically, it's a great school. So I wanted to go somewhere where I'd get a good education, and, just kind of checked all those boxes and turned out to be a great fit.
So my last question for both of you is, obviously it's probably great working for a boss like Coach Martin and working with an assistant coach like Anton Gray. How do you two put up with Sorrentine, though? That's the question I have.
Sam, you could take that one.
Oh, that's $1 million question. Well, recently we've been doing a bunch of shooting workouts to stay in shape, and Sorrentine kicks my butt every single day, and I have to question whether I want to come back the next day. So I've been doing a lot of looking inward over the past couple of weeks. So that's the latest from my end.
So he can still make them from the parking lot, right?
Oh, he sure can. He I'll put a number on that. He made 46 out of 52 threes in a drill last week.
Wow.
Scott, I have one question for. All right, so Sam, is TJ a better shooter or trash talker?
Oh, Russ, there's no question there. It's the trash talker.
Good. That's what I thought.
Well, Coop and Sam, thanks so much for joining us on Coach's Show and for all that you do for the Brown men's basketball program. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, Cooper Handelsman, Sam Hirschberger, our guests here on the Mike Martin Show. We're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by a couple of the members from the class of 08. Damon Huffman and Mark McAndrew will be our guests when the Mike Martin Show continues right after this.
The Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the highly recognized mark of distinction in college athletics across all divisions, both men's and women's sports. Follow your favorite team's pursuit for excellence in this prestigious annual award through thedirectorscup.com, USA Today, or L Directors Cup on Twitter. Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the crowning achievement in college athletics since 1993.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Danielle. I'm here to present to you the Performance Fit series brought to you by Performance Physical Therapy. This is for anyone, if you're an athlete, you're exercising from home, or you're just returning to the gym. Even Bruno the Bear can do these types of exercises. We've got strength and conditioning, some flexibility and mobility, as well as speed and agility. So you can find all of these videos at brownrec.com or performanceptri.com. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and Facebook Live. Scott Credisci with you. This portion of the program brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn Providence, the only waterfront hotel in the city that features newly renovated rooms and a bar and lounge area with outdoor seating and spectacular views of the harbor, located at 220 India Street in Providence. Make your reservations today. Well, right now, time for our Alumni Spotlight, and we are joined by a couple of absolute greats from the class of 2008. With us today on Coach's Show, Damon Huffman from the class of 08. Damon, how are you?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us. And your classmate from the class of 2008, another Brown basketball legend, Mark McAndrew. Mark, how you doing?
Great, Scott. Great to be with you here, and excited to relive the past a little bit.
Well, it's awesome to catch up with both of you. You guys left such an indelible mark on this program with your play on the court. And, Damon, we'll start with you. I mean, shoot, I remember like it was yesterday, your final game in a Brown Bears uniform. It was a memorable one, 39 points against Ohio in the CBI, including a school record 9 3-pointers. Does that seem like a long time ago to you, or does it seem like only yesterday?
When I look back, it feels like it was yesterday, but also all the things that have happened from that point until today, it seems like years ago. I still remember, playing in that game and the emotions that were there, and that kind of like encapsulates my entire career at Brown. So I always think back on that as a very positive memory.
And Mark, a memory that sticks out for me was, I believe it was your senior year. You're down at Yale. You pick up 2 quick fouls. You have a seat on the bench for the rest of the first half, and then in the second half, you scored 27 points, 9 for 11 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3. And the most fun part of it for me was you silenced the Bulldog faithful. Your thoughts on that particular evening?
Yeah. No, I think the Yale rivalry of starting the Ivy League each and every year was always, something that you were really excited about, that you got up for. And having picked up those 2 fouls in the first half, and knowing Coach Rob always sat you for the whole half once you picked up 2 fouls, I just wanted to try to help the team in the second half. And before you know it, was able to torch, I think, the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, Casey Hughes, for 27 in the second half, and got a nice W out of it. So definitely a fond memory, and I remind a lot of the Yale Bulldog graduates that I see in New York and San Francisco of that day regularly.
Mark, another memory that stands out for me, when you guys were juniors, you beat the Providence Friars 51-41 at the dunk. Defensively, you just shut Providence down in the second half of that game. You held them to 18% from the field. They didn't hit a field three-pointer. They were 0 for 8. But I also remember, was it that game against Providence? I think you had the ball on the left wing, and you just exploded 1 or 2 bounces to the rim for a dunk.
No.
That may be a distant memory.
No.
I think I might have touched the backboard on that dunk, but not the rim. But it was a springy floor for sure at the Dunkin' Donuts Center that night in terms of us getting the W. But I don't know.
I want to interrupt. I think that there are 0 career dunks between the two of us in Brown history. So this memory of him dunking at PC does not exist.
Hey, and Scott, they have Damon and Mark have honors and awards and so forth, which are really eerily similar. They're both first team All Ivy. They were both captains. They were both 1,000-point scorers. One is second all time in free throw percentage. The other is third. One was first all time for 3-pointers in a season. The other third. And Mike, maybe you can comment on this. They're both tied for the second most steals in a single game. Mark had 7 against Columbia, and Damon had 7 against Penn. Is that a misprint in the Brown annals, or is that the truth, that last one?
So I think it was the year I was an assistant coach, because they didn't play any defense from what I remembered until I was with them. But no, these guys were, I'll tell you what, I learned so much from them. I was a recent alum, obviously recent graduate, just finished my playing career. Coach Miller gave me an opportunity to be an assistant coach, and these 2 guys were sophomores. And like, when you start a program, and I was really fortunate when I got here, we had Matt Sullivan and Sean McGonigal and Tyler Ponticelli and on and on and on, guys who were just gym rats and loved to work. And these are 2, in my 20 years being associated with college basketball in the Ivy League, these 2 are at the top of the list as far as their passion, their work ethic, their toughness. And, obviously they had remarkable careers. They're going into the Brown Athletics Hall of Fame once we're allowed to have that banquet again post-pandemic. And, I learned a ton from them. Usually as a coach, you hope to teach your players a little bit. These guys taught me a ton, and their impact on our program is noteworthy and long-standing.
Damon, for you and Mark, you had the coaching change midway through your career here at Brown. And when Craig Robinson came in, it was kind of an auspicious start to your career with Craig. I remember, was it your knee you hurt at Michigan State in that game? But I remember talking to Craig in the preseason, and I don't know if Craig was a little frustrated with you. And I said, look, Craig, you're going to love this kid. I said, this kid's the hardest worker you'll ever find. He is going to be a great player for you. And I remember him coming to me months later and said, boy, you were right. But your junior year, did that season get off to a tough start for you? Did you injure yourself at Michigan State? Is my memory serving me right there?
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. I think coming into the season, anytime you have a coaching change, for me, my freshman and sophomore year, I was in a good position with Glenn Miller. Obviously, after my freshman year being Ivy League Rookie of the Year and having a pretty good sophomore year, things were going in the right direction for me. At least that's what I thought. And then when he decides to leave and take a different coaching job, it was an adjustment for me. And I think that it ended up being the right change because we ended up getting a different coach that looked at the game differently. And it just took me a while to adjust to that and his coaching style. It did not help that at Michigan State, I did end up spraining my MCL. The doctor on site actually told me that I tore my ACL, so I thought my junior season was over. They do the little knee test where they pull on it, and she was like, yeah, you tore your ACL. So I was devastated, but then when I got the MRI back, they were like, no, your ACL is intact. And then I missed a few games, and then the rest is kind of history progressing, one game at a time type of thing. But my junior year was didn't start off rosy, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Mark, I'm thinking back to, I believe it was spring weekend 2007. I came up to Brown. It was Saturday afternoon of spring weekend. I came up to see Coach Robinson. And on my way up to his office, I heard a ball bouncing in the gym on Saturday afternoon of spring weekend. And as we all know, spring weekend at Brown is one of the biggest parties you can around the country. And so I looked in the gym, and there you were working on your game. How much did your work ethic contribute to your success at Brown?
Mark, you're on mute.
That was my internet. So, no, I think that's one thing that Damon and really the whole team in 2007, 2008 really kind of personified. We were gym rats. We loved being in the gym at all hours. And I think that was a huge key to our success that particular year.
Mark, to follow that up, it just seems like the system Craig ran really suited your talents. You really took off as a player under Coach Robinson. What was it? How would you describe it? Was it the Princeton offense with more liberties? How would you describe Craig Robinson's system?
Yeah, no, I think I think for players that, the Princeton system is really cut out for players that are good at a little bit of everything. And it really also lends itself to the 3-point shot, which was kind of one of my fortes and one of my strengths as a player. And so I think really, and I think whether it's the motion offense, the Princeton offense, I think it was the maturity, the time spent in the gym and being able to kind of play in a system that catered to my strengths is what kind of enabled me to shine my junior and senior year.
Yeah, David, go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Russ. I would just add, and I think this, Mark and Damon, we remember trying to guard them, and obviously it didn't go well when I was an assistant at Penn, running what they ran under Coach Robinson. But Mark was going to have the type of junior and senior year he had, to me, regardless of system. He worked so hard. Like Russ's story about spring weekend, I could tell you 1,000 other ones of my time as an assistant here, or even my time as an assistant at Penn and being back in Providence for the summer and swinging through the gym as an alum. And you knew Mark was in there. So there's no secret that he had the type of junior and senior year he had. It's because he worked as hard as he did. And I think he excelled under Coach Robinson, but I think that would have happened regardless, Scott, because of the work Mark put in.
Yeah, and Damon, you and Mark are slated for induction into the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame which was postponed for a year. Now it's currently slated for October 9th. But how appropriate is it that both of you are being inducted into the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame together?
You know, it's a weird thing to think about getting recognized on that level. So, you know, me personally, it feels incredibly grateful, or I feel incredibly grateful for that honor. I also think that it is something special to have it happen with the guy that you were in the trenches with for 4 years. You know, one of the things that people might not realize is that when we were freshmen, Mark and I came in with 9 other freshmen. There was 9 of us. And by the time we graduated, there was only 3 of us left. And so to go through some of that struggle as a freshman and a sophomore, and then start to have that success and have all of that hard work pay off, it's really gratifying. And there's really no one else that I would want this to have happen with than Mark McAndrew. Did we have a lot of one-on-one battles where we probably fought each other? Yes, we did. Did we have a lot of like late night 2-on-2s and 3-on-3s in the gym where someone kicked over a chair? Probably. But I think that those are the things that happen, one, when you trust someone, but also when you respect someone enough to know like these things are acceptable and it doesn't matter. Like we're going to battle each other on a Saturday morning, a Sunday night, at practice on Tuesday, the walkthrough on a game in Dartmouth on a Sunday or a Saturday morning. Like those are the things where we would always push each other. So having this opportunity to get inducted with Mark into the Hall of Fame, it really like encapsulates all of those moments that we had together over 4 years.
Mark, your dad was a good player on some good Providence College teams. How much was he an influence on you and your basketball career?
Yeah, no, he was definitely a inspiration for me, you know, as a kid growing up in Rhode Island all the way through to, you know, Brown and after Brown, to someone that I looked up to, someone that, you know, I really admired and wanted to be like. But I think also the greatest thing that he did is he let me kind of develop and be my own kind of Mark McAndrew. He didn't force me to play basketball. I think he'd prefer if I'd played golf, truthfully. Yet I wanted to kind of build my own career and my own self. And he was just the biggest supporter, him and my mom, for me to go and do that. And that's what I was most grateful for at the end of the day.
And Mark, how has the Brown basketball experience influenced your life, and how has your decision to attend Brown worked out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything, Russ. I mean, I think you don't know. It's been every piece and part of my life from the 4 years I was at Brown to now being out for over a decade now. Every single thing I do and touch every day ties back to Brown, my Brown experience, my teammates, my friends, my network. And so I think you just cannot put a price on how incredible that Brown and Brown basketball experience is. And I wouldn't change it for anything in the entire world.
Damon, like your brother, you played professionally when you got out of school in Belgium, the Netherlands, the UK, and now you've been making a living of playing this 3-on-3 basketball. I know you won the gold at the 2019 Fiba World Cup. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing now from a basketball standpoint.
Yeah, so 3-on-3, or as they say internationally, 3x3, you know, they're all about brand differentiation. They decided to make it an Olympic sport, you know, roughly 10 years ago. But it takes this whole process of setting up professional leagues. Countries have to qualify. And so they didn't get it approved until 2017. I happened to be invited the summer of 2017 to USA Basketball's national 3x3 tournament in Colorado Springs with no real expectations of becoming a 3-on-3 professional player or playing for the United States. But we ended up winning that tournament. And there were G League players, there were college players that had just graduated. And then there were a large number of teams that were players like myself, former pros, that were kind of like at this point of like transitioning to retire. And we won. And after we won, they asked our team to be Team USA at the World Cup in France in 2017. So that was like my real first taste of what 3-on-3 basketball was. And I still didn't really understand it at that time. So we play in the World Cup, we lose to Serbia and kind of get sent home packing. And we're kind of shell shocked, like, well, what is this? And then we find out there's all of these professional tournaments all over the world. So the way that 3-on-3 works is it's similar to tennis, where there's not a league. There are individual events that you accumulate points in based on how you do that affect your overall ranking. So similar to tennis, there's, you know, the US Open, the Wimbledon, the French Open, Australian Open. All of those major tournaments give those tennis players the best points. Well, there's something similar in 3-on-3 basketball, and they're called World Tour Masters. Now, generally in a typical year, non-COVID, they would have 10 masters, and they're in Prague, Japan, like Tokyo. They're all over the world. So our team goes around and plays in these professional tournaments for money and also for federation ranking points for the USA. In 2017 and 2018, we were the #1 team in the United States. And I was the #1 ranked 3-on-3 player in the US. And then in 2019, our team dropped to 2nd in the United States, but still 5th overall in the world. And then, you know, all of these things, there's just so many things that are happening. And then in 2019, we got invited back to the World Cup. And then we ended up winning gold medal and really put the United States as a top contender for the Olympics. And now that's why I'm in Doha, Qatar, playing a 3-on-3 tournament in the middle of a COVID year, which I never would have expected. But it's been a journey. I think that it's a non-traditional basketball story, but I think that, you know, to get where you are, it takes someone that's willing to sacrifice certain things in your life and not always care about the spotlight, but just the love of basketball. So I honestly could talk about 3-on-3 for like another hour. So I'm trying to like give the sound bites because it's really a complicated system. And like to say like, well, what are you doing? Like I always tell people, like in 2019, which was a normal year, I played in 28 professional events in 17 different countries.
Wow.
In 8 months. So I was literally traveling internationally every weekend for 8 months straight, and making money and making a living doing that. So it was my Sky Miles numbers, like all my like, you know, went way up to the top, but also like my ability to fall asleep at any time, similar to Mark McAndrew, like went up because my body had no idea what time it was. So there is this like professional grind of playing 3-on-3 that people don't really understand.
Coach, I want to give the last word to you. You know, any coach would love to have two guys like this in their program, not just because of their tremendous skill and basketball abilities, but because, as you pointed out earlier, they were gym rats. They loved the sport. Great leaders, leading by example. My question is, as a coach, how do you identify these guys? Do you have to talk to high school coaches to find out who those guys are? Because I would think any coach would want guys like that, the gym rats, first guy in the gym, last guy out, as part of their program.
You're right. We would love to have both these guys next year if they have any eligibility left. You know, because they'll help continue to advance our culture. But Scott, it's an inexact science. Obviously, some things, you can see right off the bat when you're evaluating a prospect, their physical size, skill, ability, all those things that you mentioned. You got to really dive deep, and you really got to work hard to try to figure out, what they're like. Because you don't, quote unquote, live with them until they show up on campus, and you really don't know what a student athlete's going to be like every day until they get here. I think that's where your relationships come in, your trust with their coaches that have been with them before, people who worked at the school they were in, what kind of interactions they have with their principals and their guidance counselors and their teachers, obviously their coaches. The more you can find out, the better off you'll be when it's as far in terms of really knowing what they're going to be like. But it's definitely an inexact science. These two guys, again, I played with someone who's our all-time league scorer, who was as much of a gym rat as anyone. I coached a guy at Penn who was Ivy League and Big Five Player of the Year, and Zach Rosen, and then these two guys, and there's some guys we have now that Zach Hunsaker was a gym rat, and there's guys that can compare favorably with these two, but no one's worked harder. No one's put more time in from my experience. And unfortunately, I was only with them for 1 year. I wish it was much more than just the one, but again, Brown basketball benefited greatly from these two guys. I know they are humble and modest, but our program, benefited so much from them, their work ethic, and the type of young men they were.
Russ, how many times have you said this, Russ? You can't teach this, right? You can't teach what's inside the chest, the heart.
Both of these got it. Damon and Mark McGann have it in spades. That's for sure. Scott, you know what? We have some all-time favorites at Brown, and these two guys are part of that all-time favorite team. Pleasure to be on with them this morning.
Absolutely. Damon, Mark, thanks so much for joining us on Coach's Show tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Look forward to seeing you in action next year. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. That's Mark McAndrew. Damon Huffman wrapping up the Mike Martin Show for us tonight. Want to thank Russ Tyler as well for being with us. And for the head coach of the Bears, Mike Martin, my name is Scott Kredishi. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.